Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. In a previous video, I explained how I created a custom GPT to calculate a CRS score, but I wanted to add a little more color to it and explain slightly more in depth of why I went to such links. So I like how you can use a language model to provide a simple way for users to input their information. But I also have my own custom Excel file, and when you use a language model to calculate a CRS score, frankly, it's getting better and better. But you can never lock down the report formatting. It's never the same. So I wanted to reuse a file that I had created quite some time ago, but now you could use the method I'm about to show you to either use your own Excel model with your own like whole bunch of Excel formulas, or you could use something similar to what I'm about to show you, but force ChatGPT to output the data into certain cells in your Excel file. Again, the benefit is, for me, I output the data into an Excel file, and I force myself to validate the values and then manually copy that data into these cells that I will use to calculate the CRS score. Using this method, I mean, frankly, if you're using, everything manually with your Excel file, it's quite time consuming if you have to take, for example, again, your data input from something like this into your model. So now, as I've just mentioned, you can actually get these new language models, especially these reasoning models, and you can get some great results. You can even ask it not only calculate your CRS score, but to look at the applicability of different P&P streams. So it's actually very powerful. So let me show you how I've structured my Excel file. And this is probably where you realize, oh, I can use this, but not necessarily the model that I have, because my model is, I do need to clean it up even for my own purposes, but I don't expect anybody to really understand what I've done. But I've been just reusing the same one over and over again. So navigate there. So this is my model. Note that I use this tab for my reporting. The ChatGPT data goes into this tab, which I just created. The actual calculations are over here. So I use a bit of color coding to indicate where the data is coming in and where the data is going out. So it's a little confusing. These yellow cells represents where I expect the data to be coming in from ChatGPT. Over here, I've got some cell references back to this other tab. So, for example, if the language test is an IELTS and they score an 8, I would literally copy, and for example, score an 8 for reading, I would manually copy that number down here, and then that gets translated to a CRS score and the equivalent CLB level, which then gets translated over here. Okay, so we'll zero this back out. So that's the structure of my file. Again, I actually, like I mentioned, I do have to clean up where everything is, and I encourage you to use your own model. So let me show you ChatGPT now. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and here's how it's structured. So I have a custom GPT. I think you still need a Plus license for it. This particular custom GPT I've just called Express Entry Calculator. I'm going to go into Edit, and there's two key parts. Firstly, the most obvious one is a knowledge file. In this case, versus you uploading a PDF file or something else like that to provide information, I'm telling ChatGPT to use this file as the output. So again, this file is simply what I've showed you here. Now the other key piece are the instructions. And I'll expand the window. And in natural language, I tell ChatGPT exactly where to output the data. And I'll leave this in the YouTube video description. But it's very simple. I literally tell it, use this tab, use the following page just to analyze the data. I threw this in there just in case if it's needed. So far, I don't think it's really referenced this, but it's actually hard to tell. But for example, I use cell A2 for the applicant's name, A3 for the birth date, A for the highest level of education. Then I've got where the education is in Canada. D4 is not needed in this case because I did at one point in time use the same file for PNP streams, and I still may, but that's why I left it in here. And then go down the language scoring, the first, second language scoring. I've got a grid here for work experience. This is important. If the information I'm providing isn't in the data stream, I tell it to go off and actually find the 5-digit knock code. Okay. Following that are some of the other CRS points. For example, if the person has a sibling, certificate qualification, PNP nomination, and spousal information. Okay, so let me now go back out. And in terms of data input, because it's natural language, you have a couple different options. What I like to do is actually upload, again, a resume. Now, I would never upload a resume as is. I would always take out the name. I would leave in the birth date as is, though, because you need that for scoring. I would leave the language. You would probably need to add the language scoring. In terms of education, I would make up a dummy university or whatever. I would leave the country, though. And then for employment, again, I would leave the dates the same. I would leave the job description exactly the same, but I would change the name of the employer as a minimum. But again, I would upload this, and I would click the plus, upload from the computer, and let's see. So I would upload like this. Okay, and then I would add some additional instructions. So this is how I've been using my model. So I would say calculate this person's score. What I add is the fact that this person has a sibling in Canada that has at least PR, husband with the husband's work experience, education, and language scoring. So this is enough to calculate, or at least dump out all the CRS scoring factors. Now, you can use this method, and I prefer it, but there's also obviously another way to input the same information, and let me show you. Okay, so if you're using a CRS platform, odds are you'll have something like this, like a step-by-step set of questions. Otherwise, unless you upload a resume, you can actually build out your own data entry form where you, again, have your own natural language answers. So, for example, these are my questions, and the person, and I literally say, copy and paste from your resume into these fields, and here's the responses. So what I would do is I would take this, go through the same process of taking out the actual company name, the actual school name, so on and so on, just to keep that person's privacy. So again, instead of this PDF file, I would take this output and literally just copy it into this text window. So again, I go through this elaborate whole elaborate process because I like the consistency of reusing my own report, but I like the fact that using ChatGPT, I can provide all my inputs in natural language. So now I'm going to run it again. This is the PDF file with that dummy resume, and I provided some additional information for the model to calculate. I added the fact that the applicant has a sibling in Canada and also has a husband with work experience, education, and I provided a language score too. So I'm going to let it run. You'll see that it goes through, if you want to show the details, it'll show you some of the coding that it uses. And I'll just put a pause to this. Okay, so that took about 20 seconds. If you go through some of the computer coding, you see how it generated it, but let me just show you the file. So click on download, go and open it up. And here's the information. Now, again, if you were to stop watching this video right now, that's perfectly fine. But you see, it's outputted the factors to calculate the CRS score, but not the score itself. So again, what I do is I take that information and I go through a validation process. So you see that, for example, let me scroll up here. So this is the language section. Okay, so this is from ChatGPT as 8.5, 8, 7, and 8. So which is being taken from here. And because you'll see these cell references. So what I do, because just as a validation, what I do is this. Here's the area for my reporting, right? And it's automatically filled in the age. I was pretty confident in that. And also the siblings. Now, what I'll do is this. Because there's no scoring for the language, I go through and I literally type in 8.5, 8, and you may say, oh, the person may have provided the actual IELTS score and it's not what they say it is, but this is where you would validate. Okay, so I've keyed in the IELTS score. I use a bunch of formulas to calculate it, and there's the language score now. So again, you can stop here and create your own model. My model is frankly a little too complex for most people. So if you want to stop here, that's great. But otherwise, I will continue filling out the rest of the fields and show you the end result. And I'll put a pause to it again.
A few moments later.
So with this part, I'm going to show you how the rest of the calculations work. So, okay, let me show you this. And again, I hope you have your own model. As I mentioned before, mine is overly complicated in the fact that I need to clean up the locations of my calculations. So these cells refer to the data from ChatGPT. I'm using a lighter yellow color. The darker yellow color on this tab represents what's actually being used to calculate. So this is from ChatGPT again. So all I've done is I'm copying these cells down. So this is for the applicant's first language, the second language. Here's the calculations. Again, because I'm just extracting the scoring factors, I'm using a bunch of formulas to calculate the CRS score. Again, this is something that I'm comfortable with. This is the birth date from ChatGPT. I brought it down here. The education. So the education is free text from ChatGPT. So inside my model, I've got a predefined list. So when I see this, I see, okay, I'm going to click on this value. A couple of weird bugs, but that's a subject for another day. Okay, I fill in the rest. The primary occupation. Although without LMIA points, well, that's that's something else. That's another conversation. These fields over here are taken directly from the grid of the ChatGPT extract. I did mention that I told ChatGPT to estimate the knock code, which is really important because it has to be a tier 3 or above, right? So this is the name of the employer, the work title, start, and the end dates. And actually, so there's no end date there, but for the purposes of my model, I put into today's date just to give the right duration. Okay, so then I take this and I key in the actual start and end date. Inside the resume, I didn't put in the day of the month. Sometimes ChatGPT will put in the day of the month, sometimes it won't. So that's why I've added that additional step where I look at this value and I key it in over here. See, so that's a cell reference. This is just straight data entry. Then the knock code. Again, this is from ChatGPT. I told it to make an estimate based on the job description and the various other things it found on the resume. I see this. Okay, I'm satisfied. I've got a predefined list of all the 5-digit knocks. I told ChatGPT to make an estimate, actually. If it's full-time, I'm just putting in 30 hours unless it's actually specified. And I think I put in a rule for, I think, 15 hours or something like that if it's part-time. Again, you could change it. You could change it to meet your own criteria. I then say, because of this country, I fill in either the working outside Canada or inside Canada on a work permit. Was it self-employed, and was this person a postgraduate work permit for that job? These two other factors, obviously, for CEC, and also I think a couple of provinces, they have a selection criteria based on that fact, whether the job, the work experience was on a postgraduate work permit. I take the country, I copy the country over here, and I've got a whole bunch of different calculations for the work experience. And it's because at one point in time, I was calculating not just the CRS, but federal skilled worker, federal skilled trade, Manitoba, Ontario, BC. The Ontario ones are obsolete now because at one point in time, it only counted the last 18 months. But that's how all these formulas work. Again, I built this model over time and I'm comfortable with it. Scrolling down, and again, there's a lot of white space because that's how I managed it. The spouse's education, this is from ChatGPT. I have this drop down to make the equivalent value based on my template. 36 months of work experience. Inside the prompt, I don't know if you recall, let me just scroll back there. 36 months. I said in the prompt he has 3 years of Canadian work experience. Inside the instructions, I told it to convert from years to months. I put in the language scoring. So I have a couple of options here. Either the person enters in the CLB value or the NCLC, or unless they provide the actual language score, I fill in this field and then I manually copy the language scores into these cells down here. And that's basically all I need. So now I've got a complete CRS report. I'm comfortable over time that I believe in this accuracy. So again, that's the cost benefit. I know over time, because I'm the one that developed all these formulas, I know how to feed in the data into my formulas, and this is the end result. I encourage everybody to create your own report template because then you get the benefit of ChatGPT natural language with your own set of instructions to simplify the data entry, plus you have a standardized set of reports that you're already used to. And the one trick is you should be outputting everything onto a separate tab, because if you try to put the chat GPT information inside a tab like this with all these drop downs and formulas and everything else, I've never gotten it to work. So that's my workaround, and actually it provides a good audit trail too. Anyways, thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, just let me know. In the YouTube description, I'll leave an example of the prompt, and I'll even leave a link actually to the Excel file. I don't encourage you to use my Excel file. Definitely use your own. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.